Daredevil Born Again is the latest series in the MCU, and it's now premiering on Disney Plus at the time that I'm uploading this review. The first two episodes are going live, I believe, but this is going to be a spoiler-free review of the entire season. I had a chance to check it all out pretty early, and so without further ado, let's get into it. This takes place very much after the events of the core series that ended with Season 3 in 2018, where we follow Matt Murdock once again, played by Charlie Cox, as he's trying to deal with a myriad of issues that are popping up in New York and try to solve them in the best way possible, all while it seems like things are becoming worse, especially once Wilson Fisk, played once again by Vincent D'Onofrio, is making a play for being the mayor of the city. And that's all I'm really gonna say about the plot. That's the brief gist I'm going to give you. The rest of it I would like you guys to see for yourself, so no more spoilers over there. But I was very excited for this because the core series that came out back in the day when it was still on Netflix is my favorite MCU television show to date. It is fantastic stuff, and I had a great time with all three seasons of it, especially seasons 1 and 3. I think 3 being the best of them, in fact, because there is some remarkable storytelling in there that was just wonderful to actually get to witness. And so naturally going into Born Again, there's a lot of hype and anticipation, but they have been sort of sprinkling the return in a way. Like, you've been seeing hints of it for a while now. Matt Murdock showed up in Spider-Man No Way Home for a quick minute talking to Peter Parker. That was a really cool moment. Then of course Wilson Fisk showed up in Hawkeye towards the end of that, and the ending of that led into what's going on with him and Maya Lopez in Echo. And then of course you saw Matt again for a brief moment in She-Hulk, where he showed up for a very fun appearance alongside Jennifer Walters. In fact, there's even a quick moment of Daredevil in Echo when he's fighting Maya in the very first episode of it, which was a really cool sequence. And so they've been getting there to this point where there's a full season. And now, having seen this full season, it's very good. I would say this is a very solid comeback for the character, and there's a lot of stuff to really enjoy in Daredevil Born Again, especially this first season. There is another season coming, so I'm very excited to see where the story goes over there, and I really liked how they brought back certain things over here, especially when it came to the character dynamics that a lot of people have come to like. When it comes to seeing Matt and Fisk especially going toe-to-toe with each other again, Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, they haven't skipped a day. And once again, both of them are incredible as these characters. There is so much, of course, history between them, having been through the stuff that they have in the previous seasons. But to just see them slip back into these roles and to, be taking the stories forward now, it's great seeing them in this. And again, like I said, doesn't feel like a day has been missed. And there are a lot of recurring characters that come with them. Characters like Karen Page, played by Deborah Ann Wall once again, Foggy Nelson, played by Eldon Henson, and as the trailers have shown you, John Bernthal playing Frank Castle, aka the Punisher once again. And that's another thing when it comes to casting. Like, this show, the core series, and then most of the stuff in Netflix, the casting choices were all so great. And once again, seeing some of those returning cast members, it just once again just cements that idea of just how good, they got it originally with that core series. The trailers have also shown you that Wilson Bethel, who played Bullseye in season 3, he's back over here too. And it was great seeing him again too. He was a really cool part of season 3, and he's pretty cool over here too. There are a lot more supporting characters this time. Some of them were some pretty solid standouts, and I did really enjoy some of the stuff going on with them. The action is once again great. That is something that has become a staple of Daredevil, and once again, it is very violent and very extreme at times, and that very much lives up to the reputation that it created for itself with the Netflix series. And it is just as brutal. In fact, in a couple of points, I would say it's even more brutal maybe, because it really tries to push that envelope quite a bit when it comes to some things that the characters do. And it manages to, again, really hit those notes quite nicely. And there are a couple of really great standout sequences performances over here when it comes to that level of brutality. All very well filmed once again, and there's some really solid choreography throughout. But my favorite part of this entire season was the stuff that they're doing when it comes to Matt and Fisk, especially when it comes to what they're doing at this point of time. Both of them are at a position where things can change dramatically for them, and there are choices being made by them which are against perhaps some things that they've known before. In the case of Fisk running for mayor of the city, you're not exactly doing the things that you used to do. At least, you're trying to turn over a new leaf. At least that's what he claims. And it's also kind of interesting because at the same time, it's not trying to make you like sympathize for Fisk in any specific way. I mean, keep in mind, this man has done some really, terrible things when it comes to the power that he has. So there's nothing about it that's necessarily screaming like, oh yeah, you want to become the man who you used to be at one point of time, even though you're trying to turn over a new leaf. But in the case of Matt, seeing this man be who he was in the previous, seasons of the show, the core show, and then, having that challenged because there are things that have happened that make him think he could not be the best hero that he could be, or he couldn't fix things to the best of his abilities. The fact that the show manages to, tackle that in some ways and to have that, faith and belief that he has on things questioned along the way, it makes for a very great, thematic aspect of this season. There's also one really good thing going on though on the side when it comes to just New Yorkers in general. There's a very big emphasis on making the city a character in this. And that's something that I really liked about, again, those original 3 seasons, and something over here also, they tried to do that a lot more. So every now and then you might see something with some characters on the street or something like that and think to yourself, I don't know if I'm really connecting with this. But then there are things that happen as the season progresses and you think, oh, okay, now I see like there was a bit of a long game over here. Okay, now I'm kind of getting it. I'm not going to try and give too much about that, but there is somewhat of an aspect there too. It really makes it feel a lot more lived in as a result of it. There are a couple of gripes I did have with season 1 though, mostly when it came to some of the middle portion of the season. There's a really solid start and a really solid close to it, but sometimes in like the second act, if you will, of the season, it can be a little scattered at times, especially because a lot of it is moving at a breakneck pace, and sometimes you can, have a lot of ideas introduced and a couple of them don't get a chance to shine as much as other things. They come up a little more directly, perhaps in a few scenes to sort of make it clearer, which in those cases, I think it works, but then there are some other things which are wrapped up, a little quicker, perhaps. There's also a couple of detours that I think like mess around a little bit with like the overall tone of the season. There's one thing in particular that happens where Matt has to deal with something, and it's kind of like a side quest, if you will. That particular chapter of the story, it can feel like, again, a very big departure from everything else. It feels like a bottle episode of sorts. It does lead to one thing going on the side, which I thought was really nice, and it's a nice little, reference point to something, so I thought that was very cool. But it just, again, it feels a little off compared to the rest of it. So, I think a couple of times it does manage to do that. But overall, by the end of the season, I was still very happy with how Daredevil Born Again went. It's a dark, often bleak story taking place in a world which has changed dramatically since, things have happened in those previous seasons. And then ever since then, there's been, literal universe-ending events. And with the MCU where it is right now, there's also so much changing on the side when it comes to what the characters are up to. And the way that this show integrates itself into that larger framework while also honoring a lot of what made the original series work so well, I think it makes for a fairly solid balance overall, and I can't wait to see what season 2 will pull off. I don't think it quite reaches the level of like seasons 1 and 3. I think those two are pretty, massive when it comes to some of their accomplishments. But I do think this is better than season 2, which, for the record, I do quite like season 2. So, me saying that it's the third best season, it's still quite good. And I'm very excited to see how the story will continue going forward. I'm gonna give Daredevil Born Again Season 1 an A-. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you guys think of Daredevil's Born Again, and when you finally, like, I think you're gonna see the first 2 episodes right now, so you can leave your thoughts below on that if you'd like. And I'm very excited for you guys to check out the rest of the season. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe. Thank you very much, as always, for watching, and I hope you guys enjoy the show.